Welcome to the Gym Plus Coffee podcast. Welcome to episode 11. I'm Ian, producer of the podcast and member of the Gym Plus Coffee community team. On this week's episode, co-founder Diarmuid McSweeney sits down with Kyla Cobbler. Kyla is a stand-up comedian from Cork who's currently living in Barcelona and specialises in observational comedy. She started comedy during lockdown, doing skits on social media and eventually branched into stand-up comedy. A lot of Kyla's sketches focus on what it's like dating in a foreign country, particularly while sober, and the weird and wacky people she meets along the way. If you haven't seen her skits, make sure you check out her Instagram. Kyla talks about her sobriety journey and how she's decided to change her life for the better. She tells us about how performing sober was like starting from scratch all over again, but it made it a much better experience. She also tells us how sometimes you need to ditch friends that aren't in line with you, and the relief and positivity that comes with doing just that. Kyla is an incredibly open person, and talks about how her new lifestyle sometimes makes her feel lonely. However, she is positive that things will change, as she discovers new hobbies and surrounds herself with the right people, and focuses on the things that she always wanted to do, instead of things society tells us we should be doing. Hope you enjoy.
Kyla, you're very welcome to the Gym Plus Coffee podcast. Thanks a million for joining us.
My pleasure. It's amazing.
I think I could say that you were a crowd favourite at our event in Cork a few weeks ago.
Oh, I wish I could say the same about you, Dermot.
Down in the Marina Market. It was great crack. I think the reaction you got that day from the crowd kind of said it all. So we were really buzzed to kind of have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
I kind of start this way with everyone really, but I think it would be good to give people a kind of a context of your journey so far over the last couple of years.
Sure. What
you've been up to, and I suppose just the big things on your
on
radar
the list.
Right now. Yeah.
So I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm from Cork, and I'm based in Barcelona. So even when I came back to the Gym Plus Coffee, I fly back and forth usually for gigs or for events and things like that. I suppose a lot of people know me from Instagram. So I started my Instagram when everyone else was doing it and started doing like little stories, and then the following just grew very organically. And I wouldn't have even called myself a comedian then, you know what I mean? I was just doing it, and like I was living abroad, I was living in Italy, and I just really missed the crack. I just really missed the crack so much. So I started doing these stories, and this was before like reels were invented or people were posting up their lives. It was much more kind of just selling things. And it just grew, as I said, grew very organically. And then during the pandemic in lockdown, I was locked in for 60 days in Spain, and you couldn't exercise. So I just lost my mind. But I mean like lost my mind, which was terrible for my mental health, but did wonders for my creativity. And every day I would go online and I'll do all these sketches, but like full costume sketches, all different characters. And I got like 10,000 followers in 60 days. It just grew and grew and grew because everybody was locked in, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just, and then from there I suppose I got noticed by other comedians, and I started doing more podcasts and started getting introduced into that. Well, because I suppose in school you just be a messer, you know, or a troublemaker. And I was like, I can make a career out of this, or I can like actually do this and, you know, enjoy my life and do it for a living. And
would you have had ambitions to do that beforehand?
Absolutely not. Oh my God, if you had told me that I'd be up on stage under a spotlight, taking up space and using my voice in that way, I would be like, not a chance. And I come from a very funny family, so it's like the pressure's there. You know what I mean?
But funny, not performer funny.
No, just like Irish pub, you wear a new pair of shoes, you get a new hat, and then that's it. It's your turn. That vibe. That's very much my kind of upbringing, you know. So I've always kind of been quick and things like that. And then moving abroad, and when I was living in Italy, like people just thought I was like, they were like, oh my God, this woman is hilarious. And I'm like, no, you just go to any average Irish pub and you'll find that's just the crack, you know.
And so what were you doing beforehand? Like what were you working at?
I was working in fashion. That's what I did in Milan. So I worked in Dolce & Gabbana for a while. I worked in Orciani. I worked in Manuel Grace as a visual merchandiser. So I guess I always did, in a way, creative things, but more visually creative. But nothing in the sense of performing arts, anything at all.
And was there a point, like during, say, that lockdown, where you went from, okay, I am doing kind of funny stuff on social media, to the point where you're like, I'm going to write this sketch out before, like
I always wrote sketches. I always wrote little short stories and things. I always wrote things, or like,
For your own enjoyment.
For my own, that sounds very sad, doesn't it? You made it sound cool there, but that's a bit bleak. For your own enjoyment, Kyla, is it? Yeah. Just my own enjoyment. I was talking to myself.
I think that's called mindfulness journaling.
I just always roll a little bit, and I would always talk in accents. I spend most of my day just trying to be someone else, but I think a lot of people do that. Yeah. You know, you're just like playing and messing and stuff. I'd be quite playful. And then I did, but you know Michael Rice?
Yeah.
Mike Rice, he wrote to me. I actually performed to him yesterday, and I opened for him in Cork as well, which was really fun at the weekend. He wrote to me before I had known him, and he had his own podcast called The Mike Rice Show, and he asked me to come on it, and I was like, yeah. And at that point, I was doing everything through Zoom, and I assumed that he would be in Ireland. He was like, no, I'm in Barcelona at the moment. So this was like the first interaction I got with another human being, and then it was someone from Kilkenny, so I was just like, this is going to be brilliant. And we got langers, and we had the best time. We recorded for hours. And he was actually like, come and do a show, you know. And I was like, I just absolutely cannot. I couldn't. I honestly, Diarmuid, it would just made me feel so nervous getting up on stage with the mic and everything.
Yeah, that's out of your comfort zone.
Oh,
stuff,
big time.
But that's a big leap, right? Because like there are some people who have got now kind of social media famous by doing great sketches, but like that's a different skill, isn't it?
Oh, and I wasn't even a totally different skill, and I wasn't doing sketches. I was literally just chatting. I was just talking shite on the stories. And then we went to a show called Imperfecto, what I do every Thursday now in Barcelona, and by chance there was like 18 people in the audience, and they were all Italian. So I was like, I'll go up and do it in Italian, because when you're speaking, I speak Italian obviously, so when you speak in a different language, it's almost like a different side to yourself. Yeah. It was almost like a wee mask or something, I don't know. So I went up and I just started doing it in Italian, and I just kind of told stories in Italian, and that was kind of my first time doing it. And then I did it on May 16th in English, and then that was kind of it. I think that I was still really, really scary doing it. I did well in my first one, but for me, meeting the other comedians, I was like, the first time in my life after 32 years, I was like, oh, these are my people. You know, and that was nice, because I never ever felt that. I never felt a sense of community. I always felt a bit like weird or a bit like out of place. And then and I'm quite a solitary person, and then meeting them, and I remember just being like, yeah, this is cool. This is like where I belong, you know. Nice. And that's a beautiful feeling. I'm very lucky. And
is there a kind of like a rich territory, or is there like a topic that you're like, all right, if I'm writing about that or performing about that, that's when I'm in my kind of sweet spot? Is there kind of a... I
mean, for sure, dating. Like I've been, you know, I'm a single woman. I've been single for so long I don't even have an ex-boyfriend. So I'm a single woman. I'm 32. I'm living abroad. I'm doing something that's quite out of the ordinary. So yeah, for me, a lot of it is observational comedy about just dating as an Irish person abroad, or... getting to know. I mean, dating is hard. We live in such a loveless society, you know what I mean? It's such a quick society now with all the dating apps, and it's gone absolutely bizarre, in my opinion. It's just gone completely bizarre. And I think as well, a lot of us have grown up before phones, where we have the idea of the one, you know, like the rom-com of the one, and meeting someone, the instant connection. And what's happened is that's blended into online dating. So you're meeting someone once, and then people are just gone. There's no, I have the ick, you know, after one date, and you're, well, that's impossible, because it takes time to build something, and love included. Love isn't going to be easy.
The ick comes later.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The ick comes later, and at that point you love him, and it's fine. You know what I mean?
You just got to put up with it then.
You just have to put up with it, and that's what I mean. I just feel like now it's a really good time for comedy, because we're living in a really bizarre world, especially our generation, because we didn't have any of that. So now we're like, I was on a podcast today, and I was talking about the fact that like I grew up, my mom raised me without any Google or any sort of internet or whatever. So she raised me the way her mother raised me, which was to be a mother and a housewife. So like I have all these skills that are no use to anyone anymore. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know how to get rid of stains in the shower by carbon soda and vinegar, and I know how to, you know, and it's like, I've got into, now we're in this massive Gen Z thing, and it's just crazy. It's just a crazy time to be around, you know?
You mentioned you moved abroad, and like, obviously there's like tens of thousands of people moving abroad at the moment. And it doesn't seem to really be talked about, which is quite odd, because like, you know, previous times, you know, even after the recession, it was like that was just the thing everyone was doing, so it was like always in the media, whereas now it's not spoken about it at all. What's your experience been of like moving to Italy, then moving to Barcelona? How have you found that?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now, I never went to university. I never studied, so for me it was like, I mean, if I'd stayed in Ballincollig, I don't know what I would have done, you know what I mean? I think for me it was just curiosity. And like, I left Ireland after being in the education system here, and I felt stupid. I didn't feel like I was good, because there's no room for creative people. Not when I don't know what it's like now, but when I was in school, there was no room for it. So I left Ireland and I didn't have really a good self-confidence. And then traveling and being able to do everything and just being a capable human being, I was like, oh no, I got this, you know. So it gave me a lot of confidence traveling. And I guess as well, like I went to Australia for a year and I didn't really like it. I know now I'll be shot for saying that because everyone loves Australia, but I didn't love it. So when I went,
where'd you go?
Actually travelled around with the Marys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was super cool with the Brisbane show, like a circus.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Apparently they're all criminals. I didn't know that. So yeah, apparently it was like people are like, oh, that's so dangerous. I'm like, is it though? You know, so
they're my criminals.
Yeah, had a great time. So it's like Goodfellas for fuck's sake. So, but then there I met this guy, this Italian guy, and then I moved to Italy for love. So I moved to Italy for him, and then in Italy, I remember just like starting to learn the language and it not being that difficult to learn. Like it took me about 2 years. I was there for 7, and now I'm like fluent in Italian, and I like failed all my languages in school. And it just gives you, I think, traveling and doing, and people always ask, not as much now, but when I was in my early 20s and I was moving and I was on Instagram, and people would always ask me, what advice would you give? And I'm like, just do it. You can think of a million reasons why not to do it, and it's always going to be scary and daunting, but you just be so surprised how capable we are as human beings when you're in a situation where you just need to get stuff done.
Yeah, you have, like, you immerse yourself and you have to get it done.
You have to, and it's not even that, it's fine, and it might go wrong, totally, but that's okay, and then just come home again. You know what I mean? It's like, just do it, it's absolutely fine, like it'll all work out for itself, you know.
And is Barcelona, my impression, I've only been there a few times, but my impression is that it's quite a European city in that, like, you could probably get by speaking English.
Barcelona, it's hard to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
Barcelona is all English. It's so, I mean, there's definitely sides to it and also because it's Catalonia, so they speak Catalan, so it's like this other language, and they're really like fussy about it, and you know what I mean? So for them, like, there's a huge expat community. Like I do yoga and it's all in English. My gym is in English. Everything is in English. Everything I do. Right. Which is terrible.
It's time for a quick break. I hope you're enjoying the episode. Just to let you know that we have a special discount code for podcast listeners. If you go to our website and enter POD15, you'll get 15% off. That's POD15 for 15% off on all Gym Plus Coffee websites. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and turn on that notification button so you never miss an episode. But let's get back to the chat.
So tell us about the experience of living there and socializing, meeting new people. How do you do that? And I know from listening to some of the things you've done before that you've gone on this now sobriety journey.
Yeah.
How does that all tie in together with traditionally us Irish people meet new people in a certain way?
Yeah.
So how does that all come together in a new city?
Well, when I moved to Barcelona, I wasn't sober, and then I got sober in January of this year, and it's just been the best thing. I mean, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It's been by far the hardest thing I've ever done. And even just using the word alcoholic, because like I go to AA and everything, you know what I mean? So even just being like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic and I'm in recovery, whatever else. And it has been moving to a new city. And I mean, with comedy, I'm lucky because, as I said, I met the comedians. So for me, I have my nest, you know, I have my people that I can go and speak to, and I have my friends. And I've always been the kind of person as well that I'd rather have 1 or 2 close friends rather than a big group of, you know, full of people like that. And I've always been lucky too, because I love sport and I love going and doing activities, and there you're always going to meet people who are like-minded, you know what I mean, or on a certain frequency of getting the natural dopamine in. So in my opinion, I was lucky for that. In sobriety, after getting sober now, in my second year in Barcelona, I think definitely something people don't tell you, that it is a little bit isolating and it is a bit lonely. And as of today, right now, I still do feel a tiny bit lonely, but I think that that's going to change. And I think that no matter how isolated I feel, it will never be a comparison to me being sick or me being a drinker, you know, because like I've changed something for my life that's just been so beneficial to my mental health, my emotional health, and my physical health, of course. And there's always going to be a little bit of sacrifice. And I know that it's only been 6 months into my recovery. So it'll change, and I will meet people who, because like when Diarmuid was drinking, like I wouldn't have gone out with a fella who was sober. Like, I wouldn't have, like, I'd be like, no, I'm not, what are we going to do? How are we going to make love? You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, and I even remember my first sober kiss, like, it's not chill. Like, I wish it was like, yeah, it just came in easy. Like, you're just going there, you're like, this is so fucked up. You're like leaning in, it's so, especially for us, because everything I did was kind of drunk, you know what I mean? So
insecurities coming
totally, you know what I mean? Totally. But then it's just like, you know, you get used to it. You just have to, I think once you start making the good decisions for yourself, the universe provides. You know,
well, that's what I was going to ask you, which is like, is there a connection between those two things there of you kind of, you know, you're saying finally finding your tribe, and then taking a step to sobriety, like is that like, oh, that's not a coincidence? So
I mean, I don't think it wasn't a conscious decision by any means, but I think definitely doing comedy, and I realized I was like, oh, I'm good at this, I can do this, and opportunities came, and I realized I was like, because it snuck up on me. So because I was really high functioning, like I always worked out, I was always in the gym, no matter how drunk I was the night before. And then like you're performing every night, and I used to get to know the bartenders loads, and I'd always have I'd get really lucky with free stuff. I always get free food and drink wherever I go. It's like a gift. I don't know what it is, man, since I was no age at all.
Gift or a curse.
Yeah, exactly. People are like, well, is it a gift though if you're an alcoholic? And then all of a sudden I was like drinking every night and having shots every night, and then you wake up, you out of nowhere, because I'm gigging every night, I'm on stage every night in Barcelona. So then out of nowhere I realised I was like, I'm waking up hungover every day. You know, so then I was like, I remember I got offered the Opera House in Cork, because I'm doing that in February, and I was like, I need to like try and not drink and see how I feel. So I decided to dry January, and then doing dry January, I was like, oh, I'm riddled. The first day, Diarmuid, I was like, I had no idea, because I wasn't like, you know, in Ireland we have this idea of alcoholism, and it doesn't look like me. It just doesn't, you know.
It's a non-functional.
We have we know everyone in their parish has the alcoholic who's always in the same stool, always getting sick in the evenings. And God, like, I say that with love. I don't say that at all. I say that as an addict, not as from a judgment point of view. So I think it was like, even for me, I was like, oh shit, like I have a problem, because I just couldn't, like the first day, I didn't know what to do with myself, because I would have got up, got everything done, worked out, did all my bits and pieces, drank my 2 litres of water, and then just had pints. That was just my routine for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I can't live without this. Or I realised I wasn't letting myself be in any vulnerable position without it. And like getting back on stage after getting sober was just, I mean, just like going back to the first time I did stand-up. Wow. Terrifying. But and I was like, things are going really well in my life, and I want to feel everything. And when you're drinking, you don't, and I used to smoke a lot of weed as well, you don't feel it. Like, you don't feel things. You're numbing yourself, even to the good stuff and the bad stuff, you know.
And I suppose your job makes it extra hard, because the vast majority of us, when we go to work, even if that's working at home, it's just like you're kind of working, whereas your work is in an environment where
surrounded by
it, where they're kind of even I'm sure people backstage are probably having a few beers,
totally.
Because they're just there,
and you get it for free. You get a free drink normally doing open mic and stuff like that.
So does that make it extra hard even now?
Yeah, it does. Like I was saying to Ian, I did the Ivy Gardens yesterday, and I was like, that was hard. There was moments when I didn't feel like a comedian, I just felt like an alcoholic. I was like, this is so tough, man. And also because you're in a situation you don't know anyone, you want to get to know people, it just takes the edge off. You know what I mean? So it is just very triggering, and there is moments where it's just really hard. But then all you have to do is hang out for like 2 hours extra, and everyone's annoying and drunk, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm good. You can have that.
They're the weird.
Yeah, you keep that and your repetitive conversation. I'm gonna go home. You know,
said that 5 times.
Yeah. And they're leaning over you, and they're just langers, and you're like, you know, because it isn't. And now, and I don't. Yeah, it's just been the best thing I've done, and no matter how hard it gets, it just never outweighs how my life is now, and waking up fresh, and my sleep. My quality of sleep, that alone, my friend, would make you want to be sober.
People say,
oh my
even
God.
just one glass of wine and you're
really. You know, we should listen to the Andrew Huberman podcast about alcohol. Very interesting. Just on the because that's what I do when I'm like in a situation. I like to have loads of information, so I listen to loads of podcasts. I went to AA, did everything to try and understand what I was feeling and why I was feeling in certain ways. And I'm quite in tune with my body, and listening to that podcast and all the scientific effects in the body and your hormones, really, really interesting, really, really cool. Nice. I would really advise it, even if you don't have a problem, because it's also good to know what's happening in your body.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's plenty of people out there just might have a couple of glasses of wine on a Wednesday evening. You're like, all right, so your sleep is
and
the next day you're knackered.
Yeah, right. and then after 30, it's like you're knackered for like 4 days. It's like you're exhausted, isn't it? You're like, this
standard.
Yeah. Doesn't weigh out anymore. Yeah.
You mentioned obviously that all the benefits from that, but you said at the start as well that you still have those moments like of loneliness as a result of you're basically choosing like kind of a different lifestyle now.
Yeah.
So is it because you can't currently replace like the social outlet of going for a few drinks with someone?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
totally. No, absolutely. And as well, you know what, and this might sound a bit mean, but like whenever I got sober, there was a lot of people in my life that I would have like hung out with a little bit that I realised without alcohol, I didn't like them that much. Or we didn't have that much in common, or it was just harder to have a flow of conversation, you know. And I'm at the point in my life now where I just want to have people around me where I can just be myself and just chat and it be normal and not be like, oh my God, so how are you? Oh, really? And it's all this, you know, and it's just so forced and it's just not relaxed and it's a bit high pitched, and I just don't want that anymore. So, you know, getting sober, there was a few people, again, like people, I'm telling you, people would prefer you tell them that you have terminal illness. They just don't, because they just don't want to know. They just don't like it. They don't like, because I feel like when I say it as a 32-year-old woman, a young woman, it makes people look at themselves. And I get that too, and it's not nice, you know what I mean? And so a lot of people, they don't like it. They don't like that you're sober. They don't like, or not they don't like it, but maybe it's triggering or it's mirroring. I don't know. So yeah, you lose a lot of people. You do lose a lot of people, and that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm better than anyone else. There, you know, it's just people go with their different things, and I don't want to be around it. I don't want to. I've been around it. I've done it for 15 years. I'm out of it now. I'm done. I want to do, like I started doing sunrise paddleboarding, and like, you know, you meet people doing that, and I want to meet people who do that stuff with me. You know what I mean? So it just takes time. And as I said, it's only been 6 months, so I'm sure I'll meet other people like me, you know.
Like, it's funny, it's coming up so much for us now. We see it in like the type of content that people engage with, even with Gym Plus Coffee on Instagram, the things we can see people are searching. It's like people are desperate to make friends in their 30s. Yeah. Well, even like, you know, all ages, but like it seems that people are finding serious difficulty in making friends.
Yeah, it
in
is
their 30s.
hard. It's
like,
hard.
do you think like the only way to do that is actually to put yourself out there? Like you're saying, like you might be like, oh, I'm not the type of person to do sunrise paddleboarding, but like you have to, because you have to meet new people that you might connect with.
I do. I definitely think so. I think as well, something that we could all do is just like put down the phone, you know, because even in those moments where like you're in the green room or you're sitting in a situation where you don't know the person, and it's so natural to pick up your phone and scroll instead of just getting past that little awkward moment, you know, and then being like, so what do you do? Or, you know, I know it's hard, but at the same time, that's the only way. It's always going to be a little bit weird at the beginning, but let it be weird, observe it, sit through it, and you'll find like we're all connected. We're all one thing. We're all just trying our best. We're all just trying to stay hydrated and pay the rent, you know, like we're all just, so once you realise that it's not a competition, it's not one or the other. We don't live on this online world where it's like everything is perfect and I feel great. It's like, it's okay. I kind of feel shit as well, you know, for like a little bit of the day. I have moments where I wake up and I feel super amazing, and then maybe by 1 o'clock I mean, I've eaten something too much sugar and I'll have a crash, or, you know, like, but it's just being real with each other. And we don't have, right now, I think we don't have that, maybe, you know. I think that we haven't given ourselves enough credit for the fact that we went through the plague, you know.
Absolutely.
People are, I don't think, we've just come out of it, and now I think we're coming back to like a loving society. But I mean, we weren't allowed to even like touch each other or hug each other, or
it's one of those ones that I think we'll know way more about in like 10 or 15 years time. You know, like it's like right now it's like we're not too sure of the effects.
No,
of that
but
thing,
like it's definitely there. And like, I don't know, like obviously I'm on the dating scene and stuff, and you see it like it's just the internet has made things weird, you know. It made everything super weird.
It made people awkward.
It's made people awkward, and it's like people are just, it's just the phones. Like you see people sitting at brunch and everyone's just looking and stuff. Or like you go on a date and then they're like on their phone, and I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, you're trying to have sex with me, for fuck's sake. Look at me, like converse with me. I just think it's like, I'm like, it's just so unattractive. It's just not a, you know, and I get it. And I know it, like the urge is there, but like just sit in it.
Just a bit of discipline for,
you know, just fuck it, you know, sit in it. Like, there's do you want to go back to mine? You're like, not even in the slightest. Like, I don't want to at all, but, you know, enjoy Pornhub and go nuts. Like, it's tough, you know, it's super tough.
Let's talk about you mentioned a few times already, but your kind of relationship with health and fitness, let's say. What's amazing is that you were saying you've always worked out, like no matter what, just get up. So what have you done, and has that changed over the last years? Like, are you trying to do new things? Is it new types of fitness, or is it more like you've got your set routine and you never waver from that? No,
it's all different kinds of fitness. So for me, I was very lucky because I always felt like I was much more soul rather than body. Like I never ever worked out to look like something. That was never, ever my goal. It was always like, I have this soul and I'm living this human experience and this is the home. So I need to just take care of this so I can live my life in a good way. You know what I mean? Even when I was drinking, even when I was doing drugs, I was always kind of conscious of the fact that like I just wanted to feel good. And no matter what I did, there's nothing better than after a workout. There's just nothing better. For me, there's nothing better after a run or just sweating it out. And my mental health, obviously, like everybody else in the world, sometimes I suffer. And for me, just getting outside and being out in the open air, it's just the biggest cure. And I'm obsessed with water. Like if there is a vast quantity of water, I'm jumping in. Like I am just one of those people. I don't know, is it because I'm from an island or I just absolutely love it. I just love being by the water and being outside, being in the fresh air. Love trees. So yeah, for me, it's just all... For me, fitness is like, as I said, it's just not for a physical aspect of what I look like. It's just for my mental health. And by consequence of that, and I'm lucky because as a woman, I don't feel the pressure of the beauty industry of being like, you know, I'm like, I create life in my body. Like I just can see myself as a transformer. Like I'm Megatron, bro. Like I'm going to like create someone inside here. I'm going to take care of it, you know? It's just a whole different thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about that feeling when you stand up on a stage and you have to...
It's amazing.
Yeah, what's that like?
It's amazing. It's the best thing. So getting up there is one thing, but it's like when you crush, because sometimes you get up there and you just eat shit for like 20 minutes and it's such a different ball game. And you're like, I remember the first time I bombed, so the first time I did bad, I just was like, it's like a sweat. You can feel sweat and it's a different smell. It's like a different smelling sweat because you're like, this is fear-based, you know? It's like, this isn't warm. This is like, I'm scared, you know? And I didn't do my time. So you obviously get your minutes, whatever. I didn't do my time. And I got off stage and my friend Andy Casper, who's a comedian, he was like, Kyla, doesn't matter if you're bombing, but you have to do your time. You have to. And I was like, all right, cool.
Just so that the person coming up after you...
Yeah, it just keeps the show and then the host doesn't have to recover. I mean, it's okay. For anyone starting to comedy, don't worry. Like I was in a showcase, I was getting paid for it. So it's different, you know? And then the second time I bombed, it was in this really big room and I didn't get up on stage. The headline, so I was closing the show, didn't get up on stage until like 12:30. The audience were allergic. They were like, I just want to go home. And like comedies are in basements, so like it's a different buzz, you know. Got up on stage and it was just like blood from a stone. It was so, they just didn't want to know. And I swear to God, I did my 20 minutes and I hit every punchline and every joke. And it's like liberating because like this is the worst thing that can happen, you know.
Is there, in that moment, is there a way out of it that you can change, or is it just like...
You can do whatever you want. It's you can do whatever you want, but like you have your set and you do your set and like...
But do you know that from like the first 3 minutes, they're like, right, this set isn't going to work?
You definitely feel it.
Or can you change?
You can definitely win the back. I mean, if you have 20 minutes, you can win the back. Some things don't land, you know, and like some people, it depends so much on the show. Like if you pay, like some of the free shows you do, people don't care. They're there to be convinced. People pay a ticket. They usually want to have a laugh with you. I mean, it depends. Like some people could go on, and it depends. It's live art. So you could have a guy go on before you and do something that was really offensive, and then people are just not warm to it. And then I'm lucky because I'm Irish, I can do crowd work, you know what I mean? So I can talk to the audience a little bit. But then on the other, if you flip that over, so this is bombing and it's liberating and it's a feeling when you crush. Like I remember the first time I crushed, but like crushed, because sometimes, man, like sometimes you eat shit. Sometimes, I don't know, is it like the planets are aligned or whatever the fuck, but it's just everything hits. It's like ba bam, ba bam, and you're telling the story. I'm like a storytelling observation comic, and they're just like this, and they're like, give me more, you know. And it's like, and it's because when you're laughing, you're present. Right? Like when you're laughing, you're not thinking about the future or the past. You're just having an absolute lol and you're having a great time. And when you can provide that, and then you get off stage and you just have, oh my God, the feeling of it. And like I've done all the drugs, I promise. But like that feeling there's nothing else like it. It's an addictive feeling.
What is that feeling?
I don't know. Is it the frequency? I don't know. Is it because like
is there an element kind of power of that? Like
no.
Sorry, I don't mean power, but I mean like you kind of you've got an orchestra, you know.
Yeah, I think it's just for me as like. I think because I'm really big on this thing of like we're all one thing. Yeah. Like for me, we're all one. Like I really believe in love. Like I think that the point of life is to love and to love even the cunts. Like sorry, to love even the people who annoy you. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if someone's rude to me, I'm like, I will actually say, I'm like, I love you. Like, I love you. I will say that because I believe, and I don't believe in romantic love of like fairy tale, but I believe in the power of actual love, of real love, of human love. So for me, when we're all in this one room and it feels like you're one thing. You know what I mean? And it's very rare in the world where you get a big group of people and we're not pitted against each other. I mean, as a woman as well, I don't know, for a guy, I guess for guys too, it's like, you're better than this, you have to be more pretty or more smart or more, and the whole time in school, you have to be top of the class, or in sport, you've got to be the most competitive. But with laughter, it's the most common thing. It doesn't matter what language you're speaking, it doesn't matter. It's like music. It's just such a beautiful moment. And when everyone's there and you're just like, your set is rolling off your tongue and you're just like, Papa, you're hitting everything. And it's just, I don't know any other feeling like it.
That must be, like, I always think for a performer, whether it's like music or comedy or something, but it must be the ultimate, like, the sense of flow.
Yeah, the sense of flow.
That must be like...
Exactly, very well put.
Extreme for a performer. Because you're like, okay, there's thousands of people here.
And I'm doing it. I'm
doing
it. Yeah. And it's like, I can't believe I'm fucking doing it, And then I say that, it's great, because I always use that example that sometimes it's flow and sometimes it's water and sometimes it's a fucking swamp. Sometimes you're wading. So you're like, oh, I'm sorry, or you're just treading. I went and did a tour in Switzerland. Oh my God, the Swiss, bro. I did a show in Switzerland to 23 people. I did some full 40-minute show. So material, like tried and test material, very little laughter. Didn't feel like I was bombing, but very, very quiet audience. And I was like, that was so tough. Every one of them, Diarmuid, every one of them took time afterward. I have to say that was the best show I have ever been to. I enjoyed your show.
Wow.
I was like, I can only imagine you making love. How difficult it would be. That is like, all of them. That was so good.
Highly commended.
What the fuck? Like, 10 out of 10. Good job. No smiling. No reaction. It's like crazy, yeah. You do an Irish show. When there's Irish in the audience, man, it's just like, oh my God, it's the best crack ever. People, Irish people are just screaming. They're quicker than the comedians, half the audience. I do a Friday show in Barcelona and it's free. And people call it the Irish show. And all the Irish, because it's a huge Irish community in Barcelona, have gotten to know it. So everyone comes down now. And normally there's like all Irish, and maybe there might be like a group of Americans that just wandered in by chance. And lads, the crack we have. Because I just be going 90, like, and all the audience will be going absolutely 90 as well. We just, it's the best. The comedians love it as well.
I always wonder about that when comedians come to Dublin, they say like, oh, like, it's the best city for gigs or whatever, and you're like, yeah. I was like, do they say that everywhere they go?
No, they don't. It's Ireland especially, and I always think it's because it's the weather. It's because we grew up with nothing to do, so it's like we just had to make our own fun. So we just have. I just love Irish banter. I absolutely love it. It gives me the biggest giggle. It's such crack. It really is.
So what's next for you? What's on the agenda for the rest of the year?
So the rest of the year, I'm back here I'm doing the Ballycotton Comedy Festival. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll be back in November again for a week of shows in Cork in the Cocoa Club with Cornelius. Nice. And then February, I've got the Opera House. So the Opera House is the big one. The Opera House is like, that's now amazing. The tickets are not gone, but they're going. Yeah? They're like over half sold. So I mean, the press releases haven't been done or anything like that. So
that's
it's
a great
growing.
Venue.
It's a fucking beautiful, and it's my hometown. It's like Cork and going back home, and I've got friends from Italy coming over for it, which is so beautiful. They bought tickets and all. It was so cute.
Very, very good.
So yeah, I'm just going to try. I think the biggest thing as a creative that I've had to teach myself, and also as a alcoholic, as in recovery, is that there is no finish line. It's enjoying the process. There is no, and I'm sure you as a I was going to say small business owner, but it's not small anymore. But I'm sure when you began as well, it's like there's no finish line to this. This is enjoying it and remembering it and not getting too stressed out or not trying to, I know we all have goals and we all want to reach a certain point, but it's always very good to remember, like, we're doing it, and this before was my dream to even be able to do this, and and.
Roller coaster.
White knuckle fucking ride.
Exactly. One last question.
Yes, please.
A question I've been asking everybody. The whole idea, I suppose, that we built Gin Plus Coffee around was to build a community, but around the idea to make life richer. And what we've been asking people is, what's their kind of interpretation or what's their perspective on that? And you can answer that with, I define it as this, or with a story, or however you want to answer. But I think what's going to be amazing is when we look back and hear all the different kind of viewpoints on it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, when I say make life richer, what kind of comes into your head when you hear those words?
For me to have a rich life, I think, is to appreciate the day by day. And I know I just said that with the, there is no finish line, but for me, a rich life, because I've had, I worked in Dolce & Gabbana, I've been around a lot of money and luxury and everything else, and I've realised in the short life that I've lived is that it really is about the experience and the everyday and just love. And I know, as I said, love, for me, having love and having people around you is just what makes it richer. And realising that as well, it's like I always call it the divine. Like, I was raised in a very Catholic family, and I'm away from the church now, obviously, but I still have a lot of faith. And for me, it's just the divine. It's like offering everything up to the divine and knowing that there's something more. So richer for me is just in the everyday, seeing the beauty in every day. And tomorrow's not guaranteed. So it's like making the effort of getting up and going to see the sunrise and jumping into the ocean and being freezing and staying out a bit later and going for a walk. And I realised that for me, richness comes from those around me and just having that love, you know, and being open to living my life without having to, with experience, rather than always looking for money and shite and everything else, you know.
Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming in. Best of luck.
High five me. What are we going to do?
Make
me look uncool. I don't know. We had a secret handshake.
I was going to go for one of those, but it didn't really work. But thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank
best
you.
Best of luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you. You too. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Gym Plus Coffee podcast. If you enjoy these conversations, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and turn on that notification button so you never miss an episode. Don't forget, we have a special discount code for podcast listeners. Go to our website and enter POD15 for 15% off. That's POD15 for 15% off on all Gym Plus Coffee websites. Thanks for listening.